Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto. Hope you're all doing great. Hope you're having a great week so far. And welcome to this new video about the markets. We're going to do a full update here on the fundamentals. We'll talk about Bitcoin. We'll talk about the XRP. I'll try to talk about everything you need to know. I have to be honest. I mean, I'm very interested in what you thought about that as well. But this week was quite busy, so I felt like my market updates weren't always top notch. Hopefully they still helped, and yesterday we also did a live stream, for example. Hopefully it helps, but this video I think is going to be better, but we'll just get right into it. So right, today we had some economic data with jobless claims continuing and initial, and housing starts and building permits. The data was mixed, but ultimately, mixed data is already difficult to predict what that's going to do with the price. But then it's also data that doesn't really matter. So we had economic data, but it's not moving the markets that much. And then very much the story in the markets right now. And then in the Signal group, we did take 2 trades this week, but it's quite quiet. Because Bitcoin, and we'll get to that in a moment, is chopping and it's relatively stable. But then you can also see, if you take a look at the S&P 500 right here, we're pretty zoomed out. But you can see we're at this major support level, but over the course of today and also over, well, basically since the start of this week, we've been relatively stable. We have a very strong support level, but there's not really much momentum coming from that. And then we see that the volatility index is decreasing a bit. Bond yields are stabilizing. So stability is getting back into the markets. But ultimately, like, stability is not the worst. And ultimately, we do want some stability. But we obviously prefer movement, right? Movement we can trade. And movement is interesting to see. And both for Bitcoin and the S&P 500, that's not really happening right now. Now, for Bitcoin, we'll talk about some specific levels I think we need to watch. For US equities, the S&P 500, it's really just dependent on what's going on headlines, all right, and news. So, for example, some sort of a trade deal between the US and Japan, that could make the markets move. I think today, Giorgia Meloni of Italy is visiting Trump, so some sort of new perspective or new data on a trade deal between the US and the EU could also make the markets move, but it's really focused on those headlines. And that's very difficult, all right, because it's very difficult to get that data as one of the first. And there's a lot of algorithms also trading on that, so that's very difficult. And ultimately, of course, the main thing that matters is a trade deal between China and the US. That would make the markets absolutely explode. But again, there's no indication of that right now. So that's what you need to be aware of regarding US equities, which do make the markets move, of course. Talking about Bitcoin specifically here, look, we're in balance, all right? We found some balance here, mainly around 85,000. That's the POC, so that's where most of the volume is transacted. But then we have a value area low and just in general important support level around 83,700. And then we have an important level right here to the upside at 85,500, around there, right? So these are very rough estimates. And to me, it makes no sense to trade in the middle. To me, it only makes sense if you're trading at the edges, all right? So either take a long or short from the top edge, or take a long or short from the bottom. And ultimately, we have to wait for the price to get there to make a decision, all right? So personally, like I'm going to give you some examples of potential trades I'm looking at. We have a naked POC right here at 85,700. So for example, if the price is able to get up there, we find resistance there, and we drop back down below the value area high at 82,250. That looks like a great short it down to the bottom of this balance. You can make money. And then on the other side, like if Bitcoin drops down towards this balance here at 83,600, and we drop down below that with low volume, you can bet that we're going to reclaim that, and you can long the reclaim up to the top, and maybe even up to the naked POC. So that's the way you should treat Bitcoin right now. And ultimately, I think which way we're going to break, I have a slight bullish bias, to be fair with all of you, but ultimately it just depends a lot on the fundamentals and fundamental development. All right, so that's what we're waiting for, and when that happens, then we can see a breakout, and then we'll get direction. For now, we have to wait for a break first. Now, like I said, I have a slight bullish bias of breaking above 85,500 and then getting up towards 87 and 88, since we are trading above the 30-day rolling VWAP, which technically is great news, but there's no confirmation. So then I'm not going to buy Bitcoin. Now, before we talk about XRP, I quickly wanted to do an interruption for breakouts. They reached out to me. I think it's very valuable for some of you. So check that out, but I'll be back in a moment. All right, a quick interruption here to talk about Breakout. Breakout is the #1 crypto trading prop firm, which basically means they can give you money to trade and you can keep most of the profits. So very simply said, how it works is you have to go through an evaluation or a challenge to prove you're a good trader. All right, so you can go from an account size from $5,000 up to $10,000, and you have to go through the challenge you can see right here. Make 10% profit, max drawdown of 6%. But if you're through that, you can actually trade with an account size and make up to 90% of those gains, which you can easily withdraw. So if you actually want to start this evaluation, which I think is very interesting to a lot of you, here you can see the evaluation fees. I'll leave a link down in the description together with a discount code, which actually it gives you a discount to start this challenge and to give you a chance to trade with real size and to keep most of the profits. All right, back to the markets. We'll talk about XRP and then some altcoins. I'm trying to make this video not too long. XRP, same thing. We're stable. It looks like we're going to get some sort of a pullback into $2, 1.95. But I think ultimately that support level is going to hold. And I still do think, in line with what I expect from the markets, we'll see some sort of a move up. And then there's a couple of altcoins that I wanted to keep an eye on right here, and I wanted to show you. The first one being Solana. Hasn't broken out, but I think a breakout is getting closer, so that would be above the level at 136, 135. Keep an eye on that level. And then also, and this might be a bit of a jam, but this coin is called VVV. This is not sponsored or anything, but this is consolidating. If we're able to get a break right here above 2.2, I think that looks fairly interesting as well. Volume is ramping up slightly, so pretty interesting. And then we have Big Time. Big Time is super manipulated, super volatile, but yeah, I mean, it's if you like volatility, get this on your watch list. But that's it for now. I think that's what you need to know. So if you do have any questions, let me know down in the comments. For now, thank you for watching. Take care and bye.